Okay, welcome everyone. This is our first episode of our three-part series of Parents and Families Workshop Series. And we are so excited to have our guest speaker, Gary Shulman, join us and tell us everything he knows, and that we can have a learning opportunity and an interactive way to, you know, help us through your journey, and just hopefully you'll get something out of it and take to share with others. Gary Shulman has spent his lifetime supporting vulnerable families and children. He began his career working with children with and without disabilities in an inclusive Head Start program in Brooklyn, New York. He then transitioned to become the Special Needs and Early Childhood Coordinator for the Brooklyn Children's Museum for 10 years. His passion for advocacy grew as he worked more and more with parents of children with disabilities. For over 24 years, he passionately advocated for the needs of these parents as a social service and training director for resources for children with special needs in New York City. The last years of his working life, Mr. Shulman served as a private special needs consultant, conducting hundreds of training sessions throughout New York City and beyond to help parents and professionals find and access the services and systems required to facilitate maximizing the potential of their children with disabilities. Now retired in Arlington, Virginia, but still supporting vulnerable families, serving as an advisory commissioner for the Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families. Gary continues his workshop presentations and now also enjoys sharing his poetry that he passionately writes with the goal of leaving this world a better place, one word at a time. Without further ado, please welcome Gary Shulman.
Okay, so how many of you understood all of that? Not me. So let me tell you who I am. There's a little song that says, "Oh, you gotta have friends." I'm a friend. I have revolved around the sun 75 times. So for those of you who aren't so good at math, I'm 75. Retired? Nah. Do I get paid to do this? Not in my pocket. I get paid in my heart. I get paid in my soul. We're going to talk about advocacy. I'm a lifelong advocate for parents, caregivers, because we know we have some grandmas taking care of children. We have some foster parents taking care of children with disabilities. We have informal relationships where the neighbor took the child and they're caring. So it's anyone who is the caregiver of a child, teenager, adult, with any disability. I want you to make me happy. At 75, that's a very precious commodity. How can you make me happy? If you email me, and we're going to send you the PowerPoint, it'll have my email. Gary, I live in Wyoming. I have a 14-year-old daughter. She has autism. She also has a severe blood disorder, and I'm looking for help. Now, I may not know all the programs and services in Wyoming, but I have friends in every state. And I'll link you up with someone who I think can help you. Currently, I'm in Arlington, Virginia. My whole life was mostly in Brooklyn, New York. You can probably tell every once in a while you're going to hear my Brooklyn accent come out. Can't take the Brooklyn out of the boy. But now I'm a commissioner. I don't get paid to be a commissioner either. They found out what I did in my life, and they said, "Gary, I think we could use you." So I became a voluntary commissioner, helping our families here in Arlington, DC, Maryland, the whole area. But again, if you're participating and you live in California, Florida, email me. It makes me happy. I feel that the way that I can leave this world a better place is by helping. So if you're going through some crisis, some issue, some barrier, contact me and I'll try my best to help you out. Having said that, we're going to talk about advocacy. That's your whole life journey. As long as you're in this world, that's your life journey is advocacy. And we're going to talk about strategies that might be successful so you can get what you need for your families. And I know that you're all teaching your children to the best extent possible to be their own best self-advocates, because guess what? There's a little song that says, I'm going to live forever. Guess what? You're not. I wish I can go so that you could live forever. But so far, they haven't found the magic bullet. So it's really important also to teach your children, as I'm sure you're doing, to the best extent possible, how to be their own best self-advocates. Now, I am going to, let's see. There we go. Okay. Singing the praises of your children. That's advocacy. We have labels for your children, labels of disability, but you know that your children, your teenagers, your adults are so much more than the label of disability that the world has placed upon their head. So I would love if we could get some participation. Tell me something good. Tell me. I want to hear something positive. I would like someone to have and you don't need courage, you just need love, which you all have for your children. Let's forget about the disability for a second, because advocacy is also involved with telling the world that your children are so much more than the label of their disability. When we just use the term of the disability that describes your child, very often they get a stereotypical idea about what that means. What does autism mean? What does diabetes mean? What does neurological impairment mean? Who's going to be the first person to tell us something positive about your child, either a talent, a skill, ability, or a passion? You know they have those. Who's going to share? You can unmute yourself. If you put it in the chat, I'm hoping Devon will say, oh, Gary, somebody just put some, they shared in the chat, and she'll do it. But does anybody want to unmute and tell us a skill, ability, talent, or passion that your child has? Otherwise, come on, who's going to go first? I'm asking you to sing the praises. You should be able to sing the praises of your own children. You want your child in my after-school program. I know your child has a disability, but I would like to know, why should I take your child? What's so wonderful about your child? Are there any talents, abilities, skills? Who's going to unmute and share? I hope I'm not frightening you. I'm not a scary old man. Who will be the first to share?
My daughter is an artist and she produces her own music, but she's also a web graphic designer. She's just turning 18 and she's been doing it since she was a little girl. She does have a label, but she's more than that label. She's so amazing, talented, sweet, kind, loving. I could go on, but that's what I'm going to say.
Round of applause. We give our children rounds of applause. We give them triangles of applause if we need to. A question for you before we move on. Is she still in school or has she left school?
So yeah, so no, my daughter went through a bullying to the point where she almost hurt herself. It was so bad that she would go through the doors of the school and just step on the floor, and they would tell her things like, "Don't you think that your sneaker needs to breathe or the floor needs to breathe?" They wouldn't let her eat, so I had to take her out of school. But she was in a program called National External High School Diploma for Adults.
I got you.
So she's on it for like they would call it like adult education, but it's not. It's actually it's there, but it's a program for the kids that can't be in the school system.
All right, and now it's better for her needs, and she's flying, she's soaring, she's reaching her potential.
Yeah.
Bravissimo. Okay, Josie, you can mute again. Thank you. Somebody else. We'd love to hear some positivity. Who else? Go
I'll
ahead,
share.
Julie.
My daughter is just about 18 and she loves to play Lego video games, which is full of puzzles and problem solving, and she totally slays. Like, she's better than everyone else in our family, and
Of course.
it's amazing to just see her expertise coming through. And also, she is showing a lot of initiative to insert herself in the activities of daily life and take charge. So yeah, it's cool.
Beautiful preparation for the world of adult services. How old is she?
She's 18, going on 19.
Still in school?
She was homeschooled, so we
She was
have not
homeschooled.
been plugged
Okay.
into services at all.
All right.
But
I only bring that up because if she were in school, as you know, when by the time they're a teenager, around 14, they should have a transition plan in place where they are emphasizing the talents, emphasizing the skills, because that hopefully, using creativity, can give you some thought process about what kind of occupation might fit her passions, her skills, her talents. But you're doing it on your own, so I'm sure your family is right on top of that. Thank you for sharing,
yeah,
Julie.
thank you for that
Oh,
feedback.
no, of course. Somebody else, tell us something good. Who else is
This
going to
is
share?
I just turned 38. I have a disability, fetal alcohol anxiety, Tourette's, and I take the bus, public transportation bus every day to work.
Fantastic. Travel training is something that's necessary for maximizing independence. So thank you for sharing that, and bravo, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Somebody else want to share before we move on? Somebody else, tell us something positive, a talent, a passion, an ability. That, yeah, I hear a voice.
I think it's me. My son is 11 and he is an amazing artist and loves to draw Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man. Hey, you know what? We have individuals with disabilities working for Disney. We have persons with disabilities who are doing their own comic books and selling their own comic books. So this absolutely, in the hands of someone who cares about your child, can be taken to the next step and maybe make a little bit money. It's a little bit independence. Give some of the money to mommy and daddy to pay rent. That is wonderful. Thank you for sharing that talent. Somebody else, I don't want to frustrate anybody. There were supposedly 99 people who registered for this, so I have a feeling there are a few more people out there. Does anybody else want to share the positive aspects of your children? Ability, skill, talent, or passion? Who else? This is how you're going to get your children into programs, not just talking about the disabilities. It's pushing, encouraging thought processes about the totality of their humanity, which involves their skills, abilities, and talents and passions. Do we have time for one more person? Does one more person want to? No? Okay, I'm not going to force it. The rest of you can listen and think about the talents and passions. My point in doing this, let me give you an example of why this is important. Ring, ring, ring. Hello, who is this? Oh, Mrs. Jones. Hi, how are you? Not so good? Why are you crying? Yeah, I know that. I know that Susie is a wonderful, talented musician, but why are you crying? You wanted to get her into the music program that's right around the corner, and they said they don't take children like that? Well, how did you introduce Susie? This was a real call I got. And the mommy said, I started by saying, I have an 8-year-old daughter. Her name is Susie, and she has a severe emotional disability. That's how she started to introduce her child. I said, why don't you call them back? Disguise your voice if you need to, because if they hear it's the same person, you know how the world works, they might hang up on you. Call them back and say, I have a daughter who is a talented musician. And when she started that way, they were willing to say, tell us some more. Would you like to come in and we can speak? And the child got into the music program. The world is sometimes afraid of your children. They judge them by the label of their disability. So if you say, oh, I have a child with a severe emotional disability, they are envisioning their program being ripped to shreds and the paint being spilled all over the room. And that's not what was going to happen, because art and music was the passion of this child. So that's how you present your child. We're going to talk about advocacy. Your child is so much more than a label of disability. The world needs to know that. Your child, your children enhance this world. They give other children who don't have the same kind of label, children who we now call, you know the new words for normal. Anybody know what the new word for normal is? No?
Neurotypical? No.
Yeah, neurotypical. What neurotypical? Yeah, I know. I see faces going, blah. Neurotypical. Where's my child? Little Chauncey is neurotypically developing. Oh, okay. Chauncey doesn't have that we know of. Chauncey doesn't have a disability. Children who do not have disabilities are going to benefit from your children being in programs with them. I taught Head Start for about 5 years. The policy of Head Start is to have at least 17 to 20% of the children be children with disabilities. I saw children learning compassion. I saw children with disabilities teaching children who didn't have disabilities certain skills. They learn from each other. They learn that this is a diverse world. This is a world where everyone is different and everybody shares things in common. So advocating for your children to be in this world that they are eventually going to be living in anyway, while they're young, is helping the world understand that your children have value, that your children benefit this world, and they add a tremendous amount of compassion and kindness. Just being in a program, it changes the way a person thinks. Again, labels of disability, words, sticks and stones can break my bones. Words can hurt. Words can create stereotypes. Words can keep your children back and prevent them from joining into programs. Now, I need you to share. I don't want this to be the Gary Shulman show. I need your feedback. When was the last time that you needed to advocate for your child, teen, or adult who has a disability? And did you have any strategies that you used to have a successful outcome? I hope you had a successful outcome. We don't always. When was the last time you needed to advocate for your child? And somebody share, when was the last time you needed to advocate for your child? And what did you have to do? I know you've all had experiences. Yeah, let's hear it. Come on, let's share. I'm hearing you go in and out. Is there somebody who wants to share? So you go ahead. When was the last time that you needed to advocate for your child?
For the bullying was the last time for the bullying in her school, because they were saying that it was her fault and not coming with a better way to work with both kids so they can learn to maybe not like each other, right? Because we're not liked by everybody, but at least be cordial and be and be more respectful with each other. So I had to fight a lot. I had to advocate for my daughter to have a voice, because she wouldn't dare to speak up about anything that was going on and what was happening. I had to step in and advocate for her. And the way I did it was that, I told them, what was going on. And then I really explained to them the importance of, her being able to be at school and feeling safe. And
Okay.
she was in feeling safe and what we can do. And so they kind of took her out of this, they took her out, they called the cops, and because she lost it, it came to a point where she lost it. She went after the kid, but she didn't never hurt her or nothing. But she went after the kid to kind of show, I'm tired, I've been home
Okay.
for 2 or 3 years.
It-
But it came out to be a good thing because, the counselors knew, the principals knew, and there was more eyes, but they really didn't come to something better. So it came to a point that I had to take my daughter to a hospital.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm
Tried to
so
harm
sorry.
herself, and she was cutting deep, So, but at least I didn't stay quiet. I did fight for her, and I did try my best, and I even wrote a letter to the education.
Okay. I want to not lose track of what you're saying because you're saying you spoke up. You wrote a letter, perhaps you climbed up the ladder, you made sure the letter went to people in positions of power. You tried to teach your daughter some self-advocacy skills as well, but she had some difficulty with that because there was so much emotion behind this. If somebody is bullying you, there's tremendous emotion, but it had a positive outcome. Thank goodness she's out of there now. So thank you for sharing that advocate. Exactly. Woo-hoo! Giving yourself a round of applause. Thank you. Somebody else. I know every one of you, you have a child with a disability, you have had an experience that required, necessitated advocacy. What's another experience that somebody has had?
I went to Central High School, and the teachers and the principal didn't care that I had a disability, and I switched schools because of that.
Okay. Did you do that yourself or you did that with the help of your parents?
The help of my parents,
Okay.
they came to an IEP meeting.
Excellent. Were you at that IEP meeting as well?
I was, yeah. I
Good for
had
you.
to be.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Just by being there, you were able, hopefully, to express your feelings, what you wanted, and that's self-advocacy, and that's a really important big step. So again, congratulations for that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Is there another parent who wants to share? Come on, because
Okay.
I can't see through your craniums. I can't
Oh,
tell what kind of advocacy experiences you've had so far. Let's
hi.
share. Somebody else is going to benefit from your sharing. Who else will do that?
Yeah. Well, I'm actually an attorney and I've you know, basically worked in the area of administrative law throughout
Mhm.
my career. But I have two sons. One was born extremely premature and have like a lot of medical complications, and I'm realizing that I missed certain things prior to going to law school that now that he's 22 is coming up, and I'm like, there were certain things I should have been advocating for back in early intervention that
Mhm.
are now coming to the surface. But one example is with my 8-year-old who is on the spectrum, but the level 1.
Okay.
Last year there was what I thought was a bit of misunderstanding. It might have been second grade. Where I got a call from the school and they were like, oh, we had to bring Justin to the office because he took some money and it was, for the book fair. And, immediately we're all like, money? Does he even know what money is? Like,
Mm.
why did they say it like that? So, I get there, and I pick him up and I'm asking him, and because they were just letting me know. But the next morning, I came in, but the day before, I'm asking him, like, what happened? And he's like, yeah, I found this paper under the table, and all of that. because I'm like, I don't think we've ever shown him cash because he always, whenever we go to the store, we pull out cards. So I'm like, well, why did they say he took money? Because I'm not sure he knows what money is. So the next morning we go into the principal's office and the principal is, explaining the situation. And, he's like, well, he waited until after the teacher asked about the money to say that he had it, like, trying to frame it as if he was trying to conceal the fact that he had taken the money. I'm like, well, did you show him the money that the teacher was looking for? And, because you guys are the one that told me, he's very rigid. So if he already had his mind made up that he was holding on to this piece of paper that he was going to turn into the teacher, based on the explanation he gave me, why did you guys assume that, he knew it was money and that the reason he waited was because he intended to keep it? So we go through like, the questioning with him and everything, and it turns out like, yeah, his explanation made sense. He found it under the table. He didn't have money. He didn't know that was what the teacher was asking for. And so, the principal's like, oh, okay, we'll just let it go, whatever, we won't document it. So now this year, another situation comes up where I'm questioning some stuff with the IEP, and I get a response about, well, this is what shows up in the disciplinary law. And I'm like, why is that incident even in the disciplinary law? Like I thought we worked that out. And so, I started going off again and I'm telling the principal, like, no, you shouldn't have framed it as if, he took money. If you want to say he found, property that he wasn't sure, who it belonged to and he didn't go to the teacher with it immediately, I can understand that because I told him never to take other people's property and not to take things from people. But either way, do not frame it as if my son took money. Yeah.
You know what? Thank you for sharing that. It sounds like, again, because we're talking about strategies for
Hmm.
advocacy.
Yeah.
It sounds like one thing that you did is that you tried to bring out the truth. You tried to share information that they may not have had as far as,
Mm-hmm.
did your child even know what money is? Well, maybe he thought it was a
Correct.
nice, pretty piece of paper. So it
Exactly.
sounds like sharing truth with whoever is on the other side of the fence uh, is important. And then
Right.
getting everybody to agree as to what is the truth. Not everybody agrees to what is the truth, but you shared who your child is,
Mm-hmm.
what his abilities and knowledge base was. Therefore, he didn't see that as money. So you gave them information that they did not have. And I think
Right.
a critically important piece of advocacy is don't assume that they have accurate information. You know more about your children than anybody else. And that's what you did. You shared concrete information so that they had a different perspective as to what happened. And based upon that, they could hopefully make other decisions that are more equitable. So congratulations on that successful advocacy. Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing.
you.
Thank you. Somebody else want to share an experience that involved you needing to advocate for something for your child, teen, or adult?
I have something.
Please.
So my son, I was trying to get him an independent psychoeducational evaluation. And that was actually after the school district themselves or internally did their own evaluation that I did not agree with. My son was not getting the really the type of education or the supports that he needed. So you basically had to go through the chain, starting at the school. Then when you get the no, then you go to the school district. I think the key piece is documentation and also the willing consistency and not giving up and just time. It did take,
Beautiful.
it took about 2 years, but the school district finally agreed to get him that the independent cycle, it
Right.
went through and now he's getting more of the services that he needs within the school.
Listen to what you did. You just taught us, number one, know your rights. And in this case, we're talking about the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Why it took 2 years? Shame on them. Shame on them, because it's very clear in idea, that's the law, the special education law, that your children have a right to be in the least restrictive, appropriate environment. But it also says if you have a valid reason for disagreeing with their assessment, then you have a right to ask them to pay for an independent evaluation, even if it's a $4,000 neuropsych.
Mhm.
So you had the information, you knew about the law, obviously, and you climbed the ladder to the roof. You climbed that ladder that, up from the school to then who's in charge of the school and who's in charge of them. I'm just sad it took 2 years. Did you enlist the aid of an independent outside advocate to help with this, or you did it all on your own?
On my own.
Okay, let me tell you a reality of life. I have absolute faith that you have the competence and you have the passion to successfully advocate. But you know what? This world of ours is unfair. Have you discovered that? This world of ours is unfair. And
Absolutely.
when somebody with the title of advocate or lawyer contacts the school districts and says, "Hi, my name is Joseph Fargenbottom, and I'm an advocate representing so and so and her child. I need to speak about the fact that you're violating this child's rights. Can we sit down? This is an advocate. They're going to sue us. We don't need that." If you don't know where those educational advocates are, and this goes for everybody, I can always send you organizations in your geographic areas, because I know TASH, you're all over the country, but I can give you a good starting point so that you don't have to do this on your own unless you want to. I mean, maybe you want to do it on your own, and that's perfectly fine, but I don't want it to ever take 2 years. That's
I
too
did
long.
use an ombudsman.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if that, I mean, they're kind
That's
of a
an
neutral
advocate. Yeah.
party.
Yeah, that's an
Okay.
advocate. But you know what? See, I could see that you have a flat head because you kept banging your head against the wall. 2 years is too long. And guess what? They probably violated a timeline that under IDEA they needed to provide that independent evaluation. And an educational lawyer and an educational advocate would have known about that timeline and could have turned around and say, okay, now you owe something to this family. Now maybe you owe some compensatory services because you violated their rights. There are many parents who are great self-advocates, and there are others who need the help, for whatever reason, of an outside advocate. So I highly encourage, if you got a flat head from banging it against the wall, enlist the help of an outside advocate. They don't have to be an expensive lawyer. There are free
Right.
advocacy organizations all over the country. They're funded to help you get what's needed for your child. That's what Resources for Children with Special Needs, where I worked for 24 years, we had absolutely free advocates. So please contact me if that's your situation. But Janine,
Totally will.
congratulations eventually for getting that done. So bravo to you. Bravissimo.
Yeah, hi Gary. I just
Hi, let's
wanted
hear
to
it,
add that as an attorney, I
please.
totally agree because, like IDA was not in my wheelhouse and I didn't realize how much I was missing, even though I was at every IEP meeting there was for my son and my oldest. And I just found out last month that they never evaluated his vision and that he has cortical vision impairment.
Mm,
So now I have to go back and seek compensatory education,
good for you.
you know, because I'm like, you guys are gonna figure this out. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and let him suffer through a system that's designed to, in him being institutionalized because he was never given the skills
You're
that
not
he
here.
needed to receive during the time he was in
And
school.
I'm so happy that you know about compensatory services. And I hope everybody knows that if it is discovered that your children, who are now teenagers, getting ready to leave the educational system that they're entitled to, if it's discovered that there was neglect going on in providing them with the appropriate necessary services, there is a period after they leave that they can be given compensatory services to kind of make up for the fact that their rights were violated. Now, again, do I expect parents to know all this? Many of you do because you've made it your business to learn about the rights of your children, but some of you were not given the Bible of information because it doesn't exist. And it varies from state to state, but IDEA is federal. Now, I got a very important piece of news to share. Anything that's federal, if we're talking about federal laws and federal entitlements and federal benefits, can anybody tell us, if we're talking about something that is federally funded, what can you say about anything today that is federally funded? What can you tell us? If it's federally funded, what might happen? Have you been watching the news?
It can be stopped at any time.
Boom. We're not going to get political. Everybody has different political beliefs. That's not going to happen. All I'm going to say is this. Advocacy also involves listening to people who want to be in positions of power, who want to be in a position to pass legislation that affects your family, or do away with legislation that affects your family. And when you hear somebody in a position of very, very high power using derogatory terms, which we've heard the last couple of years, derogatory terms about individuals with disabilities, using the R word on public TV, as if that's not a horrendous thing to be doing. And then a person like that is in a position of power to take away your children's benefits. Do you really think that they're going to give a rat's behind? No, you've already heard what they've said. So all I'm saying is, for the next few years, listen to how individuals who want to be in positions of power, how they refer to your children, the words that they're using about your children. And how are they answering questions about benefits, entitlements, rights? Because we can always go back to what was. We used to have a little thing called Willowbrook. In the 1970s, now you may not know this, up until the 1970s in the United States of America, we had throughout the nation, until there was advocacy to do away with them, ugly laws. Can anybody guess what an ugly law was? This was the law of the land up until the 1970s. What do you think the ugly laws were? Somebody guess. Come on, you're brilliant people. Ugly law. Let's say you live in New York and there's an ugly law and it's 1960 and you're walking down the street with your family and your child has a disability. What do you think the ugly law said?
The ugly law probably doesn't support education.
Goes way beyond that. This is going to hit you in the stomach. It's going to hit you in your soul when I tell you what it is. Somebody else, take a guess. What do you think the ugly laws gave that nice family walking across the street that has perfect little children all in a row? You're coming this way down the other side of the street, and you happen to have a child with cerebral palsy who's drooling and making guttural sounds. What could that other family ask a police officer to do?
To take them out of the, like,
Yeah, it's disgusting. Officer, that's disgusting. That's offending my sensibilities. I don't want to look at that.
Or if you're in a restaurant and they're, eating, you're eating there and they're making a mess because that's
who they are. Yeah.
You can do, and they're automatically assuming, oh, I feel disgusted. I would never eat here again. Waiter, can you please get the boss or something?
Exactly.
Remove this family.
But could you imagine we actually had laws on the books that said that if you have a disability that somebody else feels is offensive to their sensibilities, they could be fined, dragged off the street to who knows where. Don't think that we can't go back to things like that. Just keep listening, be in tune with what's going on, be in tune with those who are your allies and those who want to be your enemies when it comes to advocating for your children. Listen to what their philosophy, listen to the words coming out of their mouths, and listen to how they're responding to specific questions regarding benefits, rights, and entitlements. That's all I'm saying. Anybody else want to share an advocacy story, an advocacy experience that you have had before I share some strategies that I've used that I think might work and help? Anybody else have an advocacy experience that you want to share?
I have one.
Please share it.
My son is very intelligent, and so he has the fortune or misfortune of appearing as if he doesn't have a disability. So I have to frequently tell people just because he is smart and doing well academically does not mean that you have the right to pull all of his services.
Gotcha. Oh my goodness, yeah. Well, when I worked at Resources for Children, we did a survey as to the most needy groups of individuals with disabilities, and at the top was always children who were intellectually bright but had hidden disabilities, so that they were being evaluated as not needing intensive help when they did need more intensive help. It's like, how dare you appear to be a person who doesn't have a disability? What, right? Are you a sham? Are you hiding something? Are you pretending? No. No, not at all. So I'm sorry that you've had that experience, but I'm also very happy that you step in and you speak up when you need to let people know who exactly your child is, and that they just have just as many rights to getting their interventions, their programs, and their services. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that. Anybody else before we move on? I'm going to move on. You can think about your advocacy experiences as we're sharing. Okay. What's one thing that you, as your child is growing, aging, what's one thing that you think you may have to fight for? As they're aging and growing, what might you have to fight for your child and for your family? What? Name one thing.
I'd say accuracy in how they're being described and like their abilities. I've found that, because my son's also on a Medicaid waiver. And I'm like, I don't know if they think they were doing me a favor by, framing him to be like more severely disabled physically than he was, or, or mentally. And I'm like, no, like you didn't need to exaggerate anything. And I always find myself having to go back and asking them to change language and make amendments. And, same thing with the school in describing what his capabilities are and, what the purpose of certain goals are, things like that.
So I
Because
hear
it
you
does follow
saying
them.
one thing you have to continually fight for is truth,
Hmm.
is
Yeah.
honesty about who exactly my child is, regardless of what they think. I, as the parent, know the truth about who my child is, and I will fight to get what my child deserves, is entitled to, so he can be as happy, joyous, and self-fulfilled in this world as everyone else is. And I will fight for that. And that entails you knowing the truth about my child, not what you perceive based upon your own possible ignorance or lack of knowledge. Thank you. Anything else? Something else that you're going to have to fight for? Come on. Let's say they're leaving the Department of, they're leaving the education system. What are you going to have to fight for? They might
Their
have to fight.
safety.
Say it again.
Their safety.
Their safety. Tell us more about that. What do you mean their safety?
Whether it's personal people or agencies taking advantage.
Yeah. Bad things happen to good people. I've seen it thousands of times. And especially if we have a child who does not communicate the way I'm communicating right now. Sometimes we say nonverbal, and cannot say to you, Mommy, today somebody touched me the wrong way on the job, in the school, when I was in the bathroom. There's safety. There are a lot of Harmful people who want to take advantage of those who they perceive to be vulnerable. In prisons, you will find a high percentage of individuals with disabilities because they were caught holding the bag. They were taken advantage of. They've done studies on that. There's a huge percentage of persons in jails with disabilities, not because they were inherently evil folks. They got in with the wrong crowd and they were the ones who were taken advantage of. That's an issue of safety. That's an issue of keeping them safe and with the people who care about them and love them. Go ahead. What did you want to share?
I wanted to share that if they were leaving and transitioning into the real world, I would think about, being on their own, and I'd be scared of, like have to fight for that, and making sure that their rights are being, validated. Also, employment, because,
Employment, being on their own, independence.
yes.
Thank you, Josie. Absolutely. These are the nitty-gritty things. Because again, I'm going to live forever. No way, Jose. I'm going to tell you a story now. Don't throw rocks at me because this is a true story. Don't throw rocks. You can't. It will not hit me. I'm on the other side of the computer. All right, this is a real story. Thank you. This story still cuts my heart. And it taught me something as an advocate. It was like a parent support group many, many years ago in Brooklyn. So I started by saying, can you make a wish for your child's future? I thought that was pretty harmless. Can you make a wish for your child's future? And Mrs. John, oh, I hope that my daughter Rebecca is able to hold down a job because I know she'll feel so proud if she comes home with a paycheck. I want her to get a job. Okay, next, Mr. Johnson. Yes, Mr. Johnson. I would like my son to be a famous musician. You should hear how he plays a drum. I want him to be a musician and wind up in Carnegie Hall. That's very nice. So about 20 parents shared their dreams, their wishes, their hopes for the future of their children. The last mommy stood up. She looked at everybody. She looked at them, she looked at them, she looked at me, she said, I'll share my wish. I've heard all your wishes. They're beautiful. I wish those for my child as well. But here's my biggest wish. The parents are all leaning forward. What's the biggest wish? I wish that my child would die before I do. What do you think about her wish? What do you think? Well, let me ask you this. How do you think the other parents reacted? Can somebody share? I wish my child would die before I do. How did you think the other parents, or what do you think about her wish? Go ahead.
I think that they were thinking that first of all, she was mad, or she couldn't handle it, or the parents or the father, like other parents were thinking, oh my God, this is like they were just judging her. They were just judging her. They were judging her about being the most terrible parent. How could a parent be saying things?
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I will.
Josie feels that she was being judged. How could she do that? What a terrible parent. Anybody have another reaction? Then I'm going to tell you how all the other parents reacted. Anybody else want to guess, venture? How else? Go ahead.
I think it would be heartbreaking because that to me says that parent doesn't believe that anybody else can take care of their child as successfully, and they don't want to leave them behind.
Yeah, I will say that as a parent of a child who, prior to me realizing what his true diagnosis really was, that having a child with high needs kind of leaves you feeling isolated.
Yeah, sure.
And, not everybody is like willing to take on that responsibility. And even if you have other kids, you don't necessarily want to put that responsibility on your other children and have them, not live their full,
Right.
to their fullest potential. And to know, what you deal with when it comes to the benefits and how you can be like disrespected or have your child's needs just disregarded and you treated as if you're trying to, exploit the system. Like, it's like you don't want your child to suffer and you don't want to expose them to the risk of, somebody else not protecting them.
So it sounds like you understood why she probably said that because of all these fears. And I'm also very happy that you shared not to assume that the siblings, unless you have had a tremendous, honest, heartfelt conversation, to assume the siblings, after you're gone from this corporeal world, that the sibling's going to take in a 42-year-old with a profound intellectual disability who has behavior problems when they have their own young children. Now, some siblings want to do that and can do that and are dedicated, and that's their passion. But we never should assume. I once had a social worker come over to me after a workshop crying, "Gary, I heard your workshop. It sounds like you know things about, caring for persons with disabilities. And my parents expect me to take care of my older brother when they're gone. I want to get married. I want to have my own life. And I don't know how to break their heart, because it will break their heart." So please, advocacy means making sure you are putting all the pieces together for your child's future, whatever that means. Getting a future care planning specialist, knowing what to do with the money, getting the appropriate documents together to support your child's medical needs, legal needs, housing needs when you are no longer here, without assuming a relative is going to do that. But here, I haven't finished the story. I'm going to show you what all the other parents did when this parent, did you want to say something?
Oh, yes, yes, hi.
Hi,
Yes,
then I'll finish the story. Go ahead.
yes, thank you. I just want to say I have a 22 and a 20-year-old, both on the spectrum, and my biggest fear when I was younger was that they wouldn't be okay. Yes, because I had them a little older, and so I've been very encouraged by their progress, and even though they're starting to get their independence, I feel better. What makes me truly happy is I've come across different agencies where they work with adults.
You have just shared an important piece of advocacy, and that is gather together all the information about the kind, competent, caring organizations that can help you through this journey, especially when they are becoming adults, because look at what that's done to your mental health, knowing that they are there. I got a call today before this workshop from a teacher that used to come to my workshops in Brooklyn maybe 15 years ago, and she said, "Mr. Gary, you got to help me. My sister, her son is 25, level 3 autism and diabetes, wandering the streets of New York. She has no money. She has no case manager. She has no benefits. She doesn't think she's entitled to anything. He's going to die on the streets if we don't help." She didn't know that they were, so I gave kind, compassionate organizations to help that family. Wendy, you shared that linking with organizations that know what they're doing, that are competent, that's advocacy, and that could put your mind at rest if you're lucky enough and they have an opening for your child, because waiting lists is a horrible reality. Thank you for sharing that, Wendy. We appreciate that. Thank you. Here I go now. Here's the end of my story. After mommy said, "I wish my child would die before I do," I looked around the room. Here's what I saw. Here's what I saw. Every one of them. They taught this advocate a very important lesson. Number one, I could never retire, because I need families to know that as much as you love your children, you're not going to be on this earth forever, and there are caring organizations, there are other caring people who will hopefully make sure your children are safe. I have to keep sharing information. Information is power. But no judgment. I didn't judge those parents whatsoever. I could tell that they were doing this out of love. Their reaction was out of profound love for a child that they felt nobody else could appropriately care for. When my child was 2 and had cerebral palsy and still had diapers, everybody thought that was so cute. Well, now my child is 42 and still in diapers, and I have to wipe his behind. That's not so cute. Who else is going to do that? So I understood why all the parents shook their heads up and down. Before I move on, does anybody want to say anything else about what you need to fight for? I mean, I made a little list, but I want to hear from you. Anything else you're going to have to fight for and advocate for?
I'd like to add mandatory home health services if they are on Medicaid, because if they're eligible for admission to a nursing facility, it's mandatory for the state to provide them home health services. That includes skilled nursing, home health aid, medical equipment and supplies. They kind of try to push everything into the waiver as if that doesn't exist, but I'm here to tell you that it does, but more
It does.
people need to ask for it. And, it's not dependent on whether that person needs nursing every day. The personal care services are not going to be enough, just someone to come and feed them and bathe them. It's not going to be enough. You need the skilled care to come in periodically to check on them and to, provide any training and therapies or, just to be like that mandated reporter that comes in. Because in my experience, the personal care services are not very beneficial when you have someone with high needs.
Yeah. There's a reality about folks who come into your homes. Some of them can become part of your family and they're wonderful and they love your children. They're not paid a lot of money. They're hardly paid anything. And there's a huge turnover. Some of them are doing it out of it because they get paid in their hearts. So all I'm saying is that do your research, interview these folks, interview them before they come. Yeah, what did you want to say?
I wanted to share also about, that would be something else that we need to think about is the technology. And once they become like 18, that they speak and do things for themselves. Like when they go to like different appointments and stuff, they don't have to do it no more once you stop being like the guardian and they're kind of on their own. For some people, they have children that they can become their guardian, like temporary or permanently or whatever, or full time. But some of us have children that once they hit like the age of 16 here in Connecticut, they have a right to throw me out of the room if they don't want me there anymore to be part of anything.
If you haven't gone to surrogate's court at the age of 18, in the eyes of the law, anyone, regardless of the severity of their disability, can make all of their own legal decisions, housing decisions, medical decisions, socialization decisions. I'm not saying every 18-year-old with a disability needs a legal guardian. The legal guardianship process takes away their civil rights.
Mm-hmm.
There's another alternative called supported decision making. So
Yes.
this is all part of advocacy, where a team of people that you gather together. Somebody might be an expert in the medical field. It could be their doctor, the person who's been their doctor for many years. A lawyer that's a friend of the family. It could be your next door neighbor who's loved your child since your child was born, a relative. You can form a circle of support of individuals, and they will help your adult child make important decisions. It's not as legally binding as legal guardianship is, which is a court process. But yes, that's all part of advocacy, is knowing what has to happen when they're 18 if you're concerned about their decision-making abilities.
Yeah, we gotta also advocate for like budgeting and
Budgeting, that's right. Okay.
words and technology and equipments and how to take their meds. There's so much.
All that. All the things that will allow your child to be as independent as possible. I put down this. You're going to need advocacy to get appropriate educational and therapeutic interventions. Hey, discrimination. Advocacy, because there are people out there who are bigots. There are people out there who will stereotype your children and try to deny them a job. who will try to deny them an apartment because they have a meltdown or they're excited, so they start rocking like this. I don't want that person living in my building. That's going to take some advocacy. Benefits entitlements, let's hope they're still there. You may have to advocate because they might say your child does not have a disability that's severe enough. So maybe you have to get an evaluation that supports that. Community inclusion, medical services, dental services, future care planning, employment. We've already gone over some of these. Please, again, I don't know where you live, so I won't come visiting you. But I hate to generalize, but we have to generalize today because TASH is a wonderful organization that involves families from all over the country. So I don't know if you are in Florida, I don't know if you are in North Dakota, if you are having barriers and you've tried your best to be your own self-advocate and you need outside help, I know organizations in every state that will be a good starting point for you to get outside advocacy. All right, so I'm saying that because I don't want you to forget to email me if you need to. I'm never going to send you a bill. You're giving me a gift. It's a gift for you to ask me to help you because then you pay me in my heart and you give me another reason at 75 to wake up in the morning and go, this old man, he played one, he's going to help somebody and have some fun. Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. We have to continually advocate. Otherwise, we may go back to horrendous times like that. That was Willowbrook. The parents who placed their children and adults in Willowbrook did not, by and large, did not know this was going on. They did not know. It wasn't until Geraldo Rivera came in 1972 and said, this is not how human beings should be living. Advocacy means making sure that the laws that support your children's rights to be included in this world to the best extent possible, that they are never taken away. Never taken away. They are not chiseled in stone. They've just changed food stamps, which is now SNAP with all the requirements. They're changing the requirements for Medicaid. So people who thought, and listen, IDEA, the law that places your children with a disability in the least restrictive environment, is it chiseled in stone? Hey, look what they did to the Department of Education. Nothing is chiseled in stone. This is why advocacy must be continual. And this is why, to the best extent possible, teach your children to be their own best advocates. Share your advocate. Okay, is there something that you have used, like a go-to advocacy skill? I'm going to start with one. When I want an organization to grant one of my families, let's say Christmas toys, a piece of equipment, a new bed, I write them a thank you letter even before they have granted it. And 90% of the time, it guilts them into doing it. So I write a thank you letter even before they have granted whatever I was requesting for a family. That's one advocacy skill. I always climb the ladder also. I will call the governor of a state if I need to. I will climb the ladder. I will call whoever I need to, and I will be like the bulldog. I will relentlessly, with kindness, not the pain in their behind. I am the kind bulldog that bites their behind and doesn't let go. Does anybody have a specific strategy that you love to use when you need to get something for your child or for your family? Is there like a go-to strategy that you've used for advocacy?
Yes, I file CMS quality of care complaints with the regional office to report that they are aggravating my child's disability and that they are failing to provide services in accordance with the law. And even like in my son's situation where I couldn't get access to what our insurance covered because I couldn't get the providers to see him, I started making arguments about, the state budget and how Medicaid costs are out of control because they won't do third-party liability recovery, like everything I could throw out there. So, we've gotten some results.
Bravo. I hear you're touching upon a lot of things that I actually wrote down on this particular slide. You know the regulations, you know the laws, you know how to proceed. You use powerful words like advocate, due process, recourse. You persist. You don't give up. You've already shared this with us. I'm sure you get names of people who have promised you things for your children. You get their names. You get the days that they said, we will provide this service by January 2nd. Oh, yes, sir. What is your name? You're the supervisor of speech therapy for my child's school. Okay, so if we're both on the same page, I hear you saying, my child will get 3 more hours a week of speech therapy. Could you please sign this? Get named. Climb the ladder to the roof. Climb the ladder to whoever you need to climb the ladder to.
Yeah,
I
I
have
want to
found that
throw in one
sometimes the
more
heads of
thing.
programs are more caring and sensitive than the lower echelon. I have contacted directors of organizations, and they were unaware of how unkind their employees were to a family. The family that was at the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles in Brooklyn, real story. Mommy just wanted to get a non-driver's ID for her 19-year-old son with Down syndrome who could not write his name. And the clerk, said, I'm sorry, but no, if you can't write your name, you can't get a non-driver's ID. She called me from the DMV in Brooklyn. I said, stay on the phone. I called up to Albany, the central DMV in New York, and I said, sir, are you aware of the Americans with Disabilities Act? And he said, yes, absolutely. I said, right now I have a family at the Brooklyn DMV. They're refusing to give reasonable accommodations. Know the words. Reasonable accommodations. This young man who's 19 with Down syndrome cannot sign his name, and therefore they're telling him he cannot get a non-driver's ID. Nonsense, he said. Ridiculous. He called down to the Brooklyn DMV and he had them take them into their own little room and make sure that they got that non-driver's ID. The head was kinder than the toe in that instance. Did you want to say something? No? Okay, I think you keep unmuting yourself for
Yeah.
some reason. Oh, okay.
Oh, well,
Go
I
ahead.
was gonna add in that, which might be a little bit complex to argue, but because I know of how the states get money from the federal government to run their programs, I started to raise the issue that if you're falsely certifying that my son is getting all of his needs met, you're contributing to the state violating the Federal False Claims Act, which puts the state's budget at risk of, having, being overpaid and the government coming in and recover that money back from the state.
Look at you going to the financial source and letting them know that they're playing hanky-panky with the funding. That's a powerful advocacy strategy. There was a camp that I visited where it was horrendous. It was for teenagers with autism. And I found out who funded the camp. And I told them to do a surprise visit to the camp. They did. And as a result, they closed the camp down because it was so horrendous. They were the funding source. Jill, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Thanks, Gary. I was going to say something that's really been successful for me. I have a 16-year-old sophomore in high school with Down syndrome who's been fully included his whole educational journey thus far. And one thing that's worked well, because our district loves to say things like, we can't do this or we can't do that. And so my kind of one-liner has always been like, can you show me the policy, the school-wide or district policy that would prohibit what we're asking for? Because often what you find is that like can't really means haven't done before or don't really want to. And when you ask them to show you in writing like then they're like, well, it's not a policy, you know what I mean? It backs them into a corner. And the other thing I do, I really do like your thank you, preemptive thank you. That's a really good tip. But I am notorious for, after having had a conversation, going home and emailing like, per our meeting today, I understand that XYZ will be happening, and carbon copying myself
Excellent.
so that they know. And then a week later, if I haven't heard back, I just reply all to and I copy
Absolutely.
all the people. And I'm like,
Absolutely.
so last week we said this was going to happen. And I just keep emailing them until the thing happens. So
Right. What you did was you made sure everybody was on the same page. You let them know that you had a certain expectation that they were going to follow through because everybody agreed to that. And you put it in paper, which meant that you now have a paper trail that you can call upon if push comes to shove. Thank you for sharing those wonderful advocacy strategies. That was really valuable. Do favors. I tell parents, your child's on a waiting list, find out if they're having a party, and volunteer, because life's not fair. Your child is number 100 on their respite waiting list, and you keep volunteering, guess what? When an opening comes available, they're going to say, oh, that nice Mrs. Smith, she volunteers for all our parties. Let's give the next slot to her child. Life is not fair. Waiting lists are not necessarily fair. Contact organizations good and early. Summer camp. If you're looking for camp, you're a little late already. You need to jump on it now. January, February is the time to look for camps and contact the camps. Many of the really low cost and great camps, they might be filled by early March. So I hope that if that's one of your needs, that you've jumped on that. Paper trail, Jill just said, paper trail, keep a notebook. Walk into a meeting with a notebook. You will frighten them. They will say, uh-oh, this is somebody we cannot mess with. This is somebody who absolutely will be able to follow through and will force us to do the right thing because they're writing it down in a notebook. Remember kindergarten? Remember kindergarten? We learned to say thank you. What a simple advocacy strategy. When somebody finally provides you with what is appropriate, that thing you've been fighting for, send thank you. And guess what? When you send a thank you, who else should you thank as well as the person who granted you what was the goal? Who else should you thank? Their who? Their supervisor, their boss, the person who pays their salary. When you compliment the person who pays their salary, they will never forget you. They should treat every family with the same amount of compassion and kindness, but life is not like that. You send a thank you to their supervisor, they're going to hang it up on the wall and they're going to remember your name and always want to be helping you to the best of their ability. It's 3:15. We got about 15 minutes to go. I want to leave some time for questions and sharing. Oh, please, I know it's easy to start raising your voice when they're saying nasty words about your child. When you start doing that, you become, that's the parent who is unhinged. There's nothing scarier than a calm parent who knows their rights and knows what the next step is going to be so that their rights are not violated. They could start yelling. You just respond with calmness. And that has power. Nothing scarier than a calm caregiver, I've found. There's a saying, speak when you are angry, and you will make the best speech you will ever regret. Same for emails. Lord have mercy. You're pissed off at your landlord and you're typing away on the computer and you're about to hit send. Put it in draft. Put it in draft. Look at it the next day when you're calmer and say, Lord, what's the response going to be? I can imagine getting this email. Hold on. All right, let me change these words. Put it in draft. Calm, deep breath. Teach your children these same skills. Take a deep breath, sweetheart, when you're very upset. Take a breath. Let's do it together. Do it with mommy. Do it with daddy. Now let's talk about what happened in school. Let's do role modeling. Let's rehearse what you need to say when you go to school tomorrow. Let's do a social story about that so we can rehearse what you should say when you go back to school tomorrow, because you're very upset right now. Services that require, if somebody wanted to say something, I hear a voice. Okay. We're going to play a game. Play a game, play a game, play a game. What's the federal law that protects your children's rights and your adults' rights if they have a disability to be included in this society? What's the big law of the land? The civil rights law for people with disabilities. 5 points for
Idea.
me. IDEA. Now, IDEA specifically pertains to their right to a free and appropriate education. I'm talking about their right to be included in the whole country of the United States, recreation programs, getting a job, their right to go to that neighborhood dance program. What's the civil rights law?
The American with Disabilities
You
Act.
got it. Who knows the fine if they violate your child's rights?
The state.
How much money might they be forced to pay?
I know.
Here, information is advocacy. It's power. $55,000. So if they refuse to give your child reasonable accommodations, you might say, excuse me, ma'am, when is your next fundraiser? Why are you asking? Well, you might have to raise $55,000. Why? Because that's the fine under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now, that's not why you should take my child. My child will benefit all the other children. My child will benefit the instructors who have to necessarily become more creative. But please, you are violating my child's rights, and that is a $55,000 fine. How about this? If the school threatens to put your child in a more restrictive class, what can you ask them to first do before putting your child in a more restrictive setting? Does anybody know? It's part of IDEA. Mrs. Jones, we're going to put your child in a 6 to 1 to 1. No, I think he can stay in a 12 to 1 to 1 to 1. I think that's okay. No, we're going to put him in a more restricted. It's called a functional behavioral assessment, where somebody can come in and actually evaluate the situation. Maybe this is a teacher who has no classroom management skills. Maybe it's not your child. Ask for a functional behavioral assessment. Here's one, the corner church. They run an after-school program. They told you they're not going to take your child. What are you going to tell the corner church? Corner mosque, corner synagogue. They say they don't have to take your child. What are you going to tell them? Do they? Go ahead. Somebody's going to respond. You don't know. All right. Who thinks they have to take your child? Raise your hand. Anybody know? Who thinks they don't have to take your child?
PCF.
See, knowledge is power. The Americans with Disabilities Act exempts religiously affiliated programs. That means they do not, under the Americans with Disabilities Act, have to take your child. Ethically, morally, the whole shebang, who they have to answer to, they should be proponents of inclusion. But under the law, however, who knows the name of the older law than the ADA that if they get federal funding, they're going to lose their federal funding if they're not willing to take your children? What's the older law called? Somebody know? It's a number. Anybody know the number? Okay.
504.
504, you got it. Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act includes religious programs if they're getting federal money. They can lose their money. If you don't want your child to be placed in special education, but still want to get some accommodations, well, that's the same thing. That you can have a 504 plan. There are some children who are not labeled special ed. They just need, like kids with ADHD very often, children who have to be given medication, children who need untimed testing to level the playing field. That's an option that doesn't require the label of special ed. It's a 504 plan. Finally, your child wears diapers and he's 7, and they cost so much money. What can you do? He's 7, he's still in diapers. He's very big, he's a large child. You don't have the money. What can you do to defray the cost? Anybody know? If your child has what health insurance? After the age of 3, they pay for diapers. What health insurance?
Medicaid?
That's it. Doctor writes a prescription for diapers. After the age of 3, diapers for a child with a disability are perceived to be medical equipment. Doctor writes a prescription, send it to a pharmacy that accepts Medicaid. We're sending you all the links. We're sending you the answers to all these questions. I'm going to skip by this. Let's see, we have about 7 minutes. When you're advocating for your child and your family, please remind the people who are trying to deny your child services that they are nothing more than a tab, not the soda that they used to sell. Yeah, Tom remembers that. A tab. Does anybody want to venture a guess what TAB stands for? Because we're all tabs. Anybody want to figure that one out? Okay, here it comes. Here it comes. You are only temporarily able-bodied. I'm 75. I have OCD. I have respiratory issues. I'm seeing a cardiologist on Friday. I may have some heart issues. My mother-in-law is in Florida. She has final stages of pancreatic cancer, healthy her whole life. Her husband now has dementia. He's 94. We are all temporarily able-bodied. Compassion. It's going to eventually, hopefully, come back to us when we need help. How we can tell people that you don't want to give my child services, just know that at a certain point in your life and in your journey, you're going to need help. You're going to need kindness. You're going to need compassion. I hope there's somebody for you, because right now you're not being that person for me. I hope you rethink that. Most effective advocate, they know their rights. They remain calm. They state things clearly. They keep a written record. They say, thank you. Email, write it. They communicate with kindness, not with anger, not with yelling. They obtain outside advocacy if needed. My good friend Plato, he said, be kinder than necessary. Because everybody that you meet is fighting some kind of a battle. Everybody. And we all need help fighting our battles. I know that Devon mentioned that I'm a poet. I now have 6 books of published poetry. I started writing poetry after the age of 70. There is life after 70. Here's a poem about your children. Love your child for being a fearless warrior, expressing their unbridled passion and joy. Love your child for the talents and quirks, for the creativity they proudly employ. Love your child just merely because they deserve celebration and adoration. Throw away all preconceptions, please. Just revel in their wonder and exploration. For the most successful parent, for sure, is the one who allows them to be exactly who they joyously are, adding unique brilliance to your family tree. Those are your children. That's all I have to say today. Does anybody have any questions, comments, feedback? I thoroughly enjoyed getting your feedback and being with you today. You've taken an hour and a half out of your life. You're never going to get it back. So I hope it was valuable. Anybody want to share anything at these last couple of minutes?
I do.
Go ahead.
I just want to thank you for your time and for the information and say that you're a very beautiful speaker.
You mean you didn't mind my Brooklyn accent?
It was very enjoyable and pleasant.
Thank you for that love. See, you just fed my heart. You just fed my heart. Maybe I'll grow more hair. Who knows? You never know. Maybe that compliment is going to give me some fertilizer for my head. Thank you. Any other feedback or comments? I mean, we're going to do 2 other topics in the next couple of weeks. We're going to do 2 other specific topics. And I'm going to try to give you concrete information, but again, any other feedback before I? No?
Yes, Gary, can you hear me?
I can
Gary?
hear you. Yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, you know, we had just gone to the TASH in Sacramento, and and you know, we got a chance to at least talk to some of the aides, to some of the legislature, and you know, what the point you made about we need to stay on top and to listen into, and you know, I really appreciate that because there's so much we can do for other parents who have younger children. Mine are a little older now, but still need help. But that was such an encouragement that we're all in this together. If we stay vigilant and active, you know, fighting for our children.
Thank you for sharing that. And you know what you also just shared? You shared that those parents who have already gone through some of this journey and you're further down the road need to help the parents who are just starting out on this journey. And that's a wonderful thing of becoming part of their circle of support. So thank you for even bringing that issue up, to be part of their circle of support. Thank you. So I see Devon's lovely face. I've said everything I need to say today, Devon. Anything you want to, final words of goodbye? Can't hear you.
Thank you so much, Gary. You were very informative, a lot of great information. I love the poem. It was very beautiful. Just as a reminder, I put it in the chat as well, is next week is the stress of caring for a child with a disability, strategies for stress reduction. Next Wednesday, March 11th at 2 p.m. It's the same link, so you shouldn't have a problem in accessing that. And we hope to see you. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.